Let's get started. What is the most used attribute for animation in motion design? Just think about it. What it can be. It's position. Yeah, probably you're right. Position, because this is what motion is actually in our real life. When you take a look at the sky, when you take a look at clouds, when you take a look at how people are walking, cars are moving on the road, this is all about changing position in time. And position is the most used attribute to animate in motion design and in motion UI design. When you go to absolutely any website, you will probably be able to scroll this website. This is also changing the position, as we already know, right? But also you can create much more with position. Let's get started here. The first thing that probably comes into mind is micro interactions. And here we have this micro interaction. Let's go to prototype mode, click play and see how it works. I click, and what I'm changing the position of this circle. How to create this animation? I know that some of you probably already know how to create that. It's pretty simple. But if you don't know, let's create. So you create the frame that will be your state A for the element. Inside of it, you create, let's go to design mode. Inside of it, you create our toggle. And for this one, we have border radius 15. You can change the color of it. In this case, I'll just take it from here. And also what I can do, I can duplicate this element. I can change the size of this element to 30, like here, and scale it down a little bit. Now I'll change the color to white, and I can also add shadow here. And in this case, the shadow will be, yeah, something like this. Here we go. Now, what I'm doing, I'm creating state B, and for state B, I'll move this circle here. I'll take a look that we have the same margins from left and right, and I'll also change the color. We'll discuss color in the next sections, but in this case, we are talking about position mostly. Now, to create this animation, I'll select the element itself. Actually, let's group it together because we want it to be one element. So we combine it into one group. The same we are doing on state B. Now, always compare that for your animation, the element in state A has the same name as element in state B. And here we see that it's group 6, while here it's group 7. Let's rename it to group 6. Or I would change it to something like toggle. Now when we create it in this prototype, we went to this prototype section. I'll just drag this noodle here, and on click, when I click on this element, instead of instant, smart animate, and I want to change the position to this one with easings is out. Now from this state, when I click here, I want to go back with the same easings. Now, when I'll drag this preview mode here, I click play, and this is how it works. Now you can create it. I'm pretty sure that some of you already knew how to create it, but what you need to understand, if we are talking about mindset, why position is so important? Because this is the most used attribute to animate just everywhere. And now when you are creating, for example, mobile app or web app that has toggles, you will be able to do that, and you will think, oh, okay, I can animate this thing to show how it actually works. So that's why this is so important. Let's go back and take a look at other examples. For some examples, I'll show you exact steps, like we'll go from here to here. For some examples, we'll just skip some things and I'll explain how it actually works. Otherwise, this masterclass will be about, I don't know, like 5 hours only for position. Let's go to another example, which is a little bit more complicated. I used absolutely the same circle here, but I created a small line at the bottom, like this one. But in this case, instead of on click, I created drag. Let's first of all create click and see what's happening when we have on click. I go here, I will drag preview mode to this one. I click play. And now when I click on this one, this circle moves in one direction or another one. But I just click, I can't do anything else. At the same time, we can animate not only on click. Remember about transition types and triggers. So we will use drag trigger. On drag, we will move here. From the other side, on drag, instead of click on drag, we will move to this one. We haven't changed anything else. On drag, we navigate to another level, to another state. Smart Animate is out 1 second. Now here, I'll restart the animation, and now I'm clicking, but nothing is happening. I'm clicking, nothing is happening. But when I drag, see, I can drag and move this element. This element you can use for mobile apps to show how actually this element works. This is very powerful. You see that we used the same two states and we created this visual powerful prototype that allows us to understand how it actually works. At the same time, you can also create here numbers and animate these numbers. Like it will be from 0 to 100. And then you will see how actually, how much it will take, for example, from this slider. And also you can use the same slider for example, music players. It will show like how music is playing. In this case, you can definitely use for the trigger after delay, or you can use on click. And of course, you need to increase the duration of your animation. So this is another thing, another technique that you should know about. Where else we can use position? This is the example that I created here, and this is super simple UI, and we will not be focusing on UI in this masterclass because this masterclass is about motion UI design. You should work with your designs that you created, or I'll show you in the end of this section, I'll show you what else you can use for practice. If you don't have designs or if you want more practice in motion UI design, I'll show you what you can use for these animations. In this case, what I created, so we have simple kind of Android application, and we have tabs here at the top, and we have the selector that shows which tab is selected now. And if we are talking about position, what I'm going to do, I'm going to animate. Let me show you what's happening actually here. Let's select this frame, go to design mode, and we see that we have 3 images here, and these 3 images are outside of the screen. Then we have 3 images on the left, and these 3 images are visible, and they are related to this tab 1. These all items are outside of everything. Why they're outside? Because when I click on tab 2, I want this slider to move here, and I want these images to move to this position, while these guys in the state B will move outside of our screen. This is for our tab 2, and these now are outside of the screen. Let's take a look what I used for animation here. When I click on tab 2, on click, Smart Animate is out, move to the next tab. When I click back on tab 1, move back to the state A. Let's take a look how this animation works. I click here, and now when I click on tab 2, we're switching, and as you can see, this is super smooth. It creates the feeling that it's real app, and it's as simple as that. What we animated, just position. Position is the most used. Let me show you the example here. Command R for this page. Mac Pro moved up, and now these two words moved to the left and right. Now we scroll and it's changing its position. Scroll, because scroll is also position. Let's get back to our examples in Figma. I created this also animation to show you how this toggle will work, for example, in the real app. Let's click play, and now I can click on this toggle and I see that it's changing its state. At the same time, when I'm here, I can animate something else. And because we are talking only about position, let's maybe move this element to the top here, just to show that something is moving and we are working with position. Let's restart. I click here, I click back, click here, click back. So we need to show that something is changing when the toggle is on. Let's go to another example where you can apply position a lot. You can see it almost everywhere. So here, what I created, we have 3 circles here inside. We have next, next, next button, and we have these pages here, slides. Basically, instead of this circle here, we can see some animations or GIFs, or it can be just illustration, because this is onboarding process. And what we're animating here is just position. Let's recreate the entire flow. So I'll show you some techniques, some tricks that maybe you will be able to use them in your design in the future, maybe not only in motion design, but in UI design. So we are creating the frame 375 by 812, which is standard for, in this case, iPhone. What I'm going to create next, I'll create the button, maybe 200 by 48. And also I'll make rounded corners here. I'll change the color to something else like this blue one. And also I'll put text here next. We'll change it to make it visible. In this case, it will be 100%, for example, and we'll move it here. 16, because why not? Now let's group it together, because I want it to be button, so we grouped it together. Another thing that I'm going to do, so we'll have the place for our circle here. I'll press Option H, so it's in the middle of the screen. I'll create another circle somewhere here that will be maybe 6 by 6. Perfect. This will be our slider at the bottom, like pagination. I'll create a couple of them, group them together as well, because these are pages, and we'll call them pages. And we'll move to the middle. Another thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more element here on top of everything, and I'll change its color to black to show that this particular state is selected. And also, because we have 3 pages, I'll create 3 placeholders for illustrations. How to move this one to the right, so we will have the same size for all the illustrations for all the screens. I'll take this circle here, and because the size of the screen is 375, I'll take circle, and I will check what the margin is from the right, 57. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to X position plus 375. This will be our page, plus 57. This is margin that we have. I press Enter, and now the circle moved to that side. Let's do absolutely the same. Let's duplicate this circle here, and let's do this again. 375 plus 57. Now the circle is here. And now Command D another circle has moved to the next position. And now let's combine them together as well. Illustrations. These will be our illustrations. So we created the foundation for our animation, for our onboarding screen. Now, when you're creating any mobile onboarding process, you can already think about motion from the very beginning, because you are creating this story, you are creating the movie. We are not going to switch between these 3 different states like this one instantly. We want to invite user into our app. So that's why we create this smooth animation. What I'm going to do next, this is our state A. Let's create state B. We will move here. What I'm going to do now, I'm going here to click minus 375. This is our screen size, and minus 57. Enter. It seems like nothing has changed, but as you can see, now the second circle, the second illustration is in the middle of the screen. But at the same time, I will move this one here. We are changing, we are working only with position now. And let's create the third screen out of this one. And for this one, we will do the same. Minus 375, minus 57. Boom. And now we have this circle here. If I'll move it here, you will see that we have the previous state. Let's move this element here, and let's click change this text here to done, and change the color of the button to something like this one. This is already not about animation, not about position, but still it's much better to understand how it actually works. As you can see, I created out of simple elements, but even here, all these things you can change to just anything else. I don't know if I have it here, Unsplash. Boom. It can be image, it can be text here at the bottom, it can be illustration here at the top. So we are working with wireframes, so you will understand that it doesn't matter what you are working with, you can still create it for just anything. Let's get back. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to animate these screens, animate this prototype. First of all, I can use, remember the first fundamental principle, I can use this prototype as itself for user testing, for example. I can use it to show it to developers. I can show it to project manager. So product manager, product owner, they will understand how it works. I can share it with the client. They will understand how it works. But also I can record this animation, the entire animation, and then share on my Instagram account or Dribbble or Behance, and you can do the same also for your portfolios. So this is why when you're creating something, always think where you can reuse this content, where you can reuse what you're creating, because in this case you spent time once but you used it everywhere. Some simple like marketing techniques. Now let's animate this one. So I'm going to drop here, on click on this button. I want to go to the next screen with Smart Animate, correct, but maybe in this case we'll have 600 seconds. Usually it will take too much time to explain all these easings and how much time you need for each animation, so that's why they will be covered in the motion design course. But here, what you need to understand, it should look natural. This is the most important thing. When you observe more and more works, you will understand what exactly looks natural. You will see what looks jarring, like it's too fast, too slow. So it should look natural. And also users should understand that they clicked and something happened. For example, I'm taking here 600 milliseconds. I don't know if it will be enough or not. I will test it when I'll go to preview mode. But in this case, I will start with this number. Talking about easings, we already discussed them previously, but for easings, because we are going to the next screen, maybe it's better to use ease out in this case. But maybe I click, it also should look natural. So we need to understand, do I want the next screen appear like really start fast and then stop in front of me? Or I want it start really fast, then slow down a little bit, and then the opposite, to move slower, then really fast, and then again to stop slowly. I prefer to use ease out in this case because something is appearing on the screen. So something is coming to the screen. When it's coming, it's better to use ease out. When something is going outside of the screen, it's better to use ease in. When something is like coming and moving away, then you can use ease in and out. In this case, both of these things works. We don't care too much about the first slide anymore, so that's why we can definitely use just ease out. It can be overwhelming. This is masterclass. Think about the simplest solution that comes to your head. Use just any of them, test it, and then you will understand what looks natural. In this case, we'll use ease out. Now from this one, I will create absolutely the same animation, but not here, but to here. Smart animate, ease out, 600 milliseconds. And that's it, it's done. This will be our final screen. On done, maybe I want to go back to the first screen with the same animation, yeah, but in this case, ease in out. Now let's take a look how it works. We click play, we are in this mode, restart. I click next, and as you can see, the slider here at the bottom is moving, and also illustration or image at the top is moving. If you have text somewhere here, it will also move with these slides. I click here, go back. This is how easy to create onboarding process, how to animate onboarding process using just position. Awesome, you're doing great. Also practice a lot with your works, with your designs, and also just start creating something. Maybe instead of circle, start creating squares. Instead of button, maybe it will be just a link. Try to play with different options. The more you practice, the easier for you it will be to create any kind of animation or prototype. Let's go back and I'll show you another example. I'm not going to explain it now, so maybe you will understand what's happening. I'll click play and think what happens. Let's restart because images were new. What do you think what is happening here? This is our state A, this is our state B. I didn't click anything. What does it mean? It means that our trigger is after delay. And also, we haven't seen these images here. They came here to the screen from the right. It means that we animated just position. We haven't changed opacity or something like that. It just position. Let's take a look what we have here. After delay, 800 milliseconds. After delay can be just anything. This is how much time you want to wait before starting the new animation. And for example, I'll show you another example of the loading screen, and here it can be maybe 2 seconds. This is how long you will wait until this animation happens. And then we have smart animate is out, 1 second. Let's restart. 1, 2, it was what? 1, 2, animation. This is how it works, and looks awesome because now your website is live. This is not just okay, I went to the website, this is what I see. Yeah, while it can save performance and everything, but at the same time, this makes your website live. And this is how with motion design you can bring live. Now let's go to a little bit more like interesting and complicated example, and let's take a look what's happening here. And as you can see, we're working only in Figma here, and we can create these animations just in Figma. Let's go play, see what's happening. Let's do it again. Now let's take a look what's behind this animation. Here, this is our first screen, first state. And on this state, we have rectangle on top, which is like dark rectangle. Then we have rectangle from the state B, because we're going to move this rectangle up and we want to show the next one, the next background that we have at the bottom, which is here. Then we have text and everything and the image. And actually for the states where if in the state B I will not have the element from the state A, I can remove it. This is what you can also use to save maybe the performance of your computer, or just to save time. So you don't need to recreate that. This is our state B. For the state B, we have to have these elements, because for the state C or for the state B, for this state, we need to have these elements because we are going to show them in the next state. So we have this dark rectangle, it's here. We move it up. We have another one here. We move it on the next stage here. And then we animate position of these elements, which is just text, text, and image. For the next stage, we will position them at one place, but at the same time, here in the prototype mode, I created vertical scrolling. You just select the layer, select the frame, and put vertical scrolling. Now it becomes our static website that we are able to scroll in Figma. Let's take a look at the animations themselves. After delay 1 second, in half a second, move this dark rectangle away. The same here, after 1 millisecond, because I don't wait anymore, so you move this one, now move this one immediately after the first one in half a second. We moved it. Now let's slower, a little bit slower. After delay 1 millisecond, move it with 1 second instead of half a second. And now we are on the final state where we can scroll and interact, create other interactions with the website. Let's take a look at it again. It moves away, moves up. Now we can scroll. Probably, if it still has the same animation, the website ueno.co has this animation for image here. Oh yeah, it's like this one. And then they change the size, then they change the opacity and position. On hover, they change the size of the mask, but increase the size of the image. Changing position only, position. You remember that motion design is simple when you understand these main principles, and position is one of them, and the most popular. It's used everywhere. You remember the example that we created in the previous section, right? On hover, we have this state when the text is moving in the opposite directions. This can be applied for Behance when you created your website or mobile apps. You can put it on top of everything, and then it will look really awesome when you're presenting something. Let's imagine, actually, you know what? Let's take the screen that we have here and put it on top of this screen. Now let's copy and move it here. Let's take a look what's happening. Now we have our application that we just created, and also we have this animation at the bottom. We can record this screen and put it to Behance, for example, and it will look awesome. It will look much more interesting, much better than just a static image of your design or just the animation itself. Cool, right? Another example where you can use position is for dribble. You probably saw it a lot, and maybe you didn't know how to create this animation, how to create this type of works, but you can create something simple, technically, but visually powerful like this one. So let's restart. Probably wait a little bit. Oh, it's on click. Yeah, I forgot that it's on click, not on hover. You can create this type of animation. Then you record the screen, post it on Dribbble, and now you have, instead of having just images, you have animation. You probably saw it a lot on UI8 Dribbble account. Go and take a look. So how I created that? Let me show you some also cool techniques, how you can save your time when you're creating animations like this one. So in this case, by default, of course, we have all these screens, all these designs that we created or someone else created previously. Then let's go here, boom, boom, boom. Let's take a look at the entire screen here. So I have 3 columns of images here. I converted them into images because in this case I have less layers, and if I'm going to use it for presentation only, I'm not going to use it for prototyping. In this case, I can convert all these layers into just image, and then I have just image here instead of the design itself, instead of all the layers, and it saves lots of performance for your computer. Here, so we have all these separate designs. I divided them. By default, they look like this one. This is our designs. And what I did, I moved the second column to the top. Then, when we will reduce the size of the screen, so then I duplicated it and moved the first column and the third column to the top and the second one to the bottom. This is how it looks here. This one at the top, this one at the top but with a different position, and this one at the bottom. Now, how to make this angle? I selected both of these groups that we have inside and changed the angle of them here. But instead of moving in this direction, you can choose whatever you want. We want to have this direction. And it can be just any angle. -15, for example. In my opinion, 30 works the best here because we are moving from one corner to another one. And this creates an additional dynamic here. I click and they start moving in the opposite directions. Go to Dribbble. I'm pretty sure you will see this type of animations, and now you know how to create them. And you can practice with your designs. Another thing that I want to show you is that while in Figma you can't connect your interactions to scroll, while you're scrolling something is happening, but you can create section by section animation. And when you're presenting your works, your designs to, for example, developers, you want to explain to them what you want to see. Let me show you this example. This is exactly what you will see when you go to iPad Pro web page. But in this case, I created the very first interaction is on click, trigger click, and all other interactions will happen because of the after delay. Delay will be our trigger. And here I changed only position. Click, we change the position, wait a little bit, change the position, wait a little bit, change the position. And as you saw, for somewhere here, it seems like, wow, it looks like mask, like we're applying mask, but no. What we have here, we have the image at the top, then the next image, and then the next image. Let's take a look at, it's better to see it here. So we have the first image, the second image, and then the next one, it's our navigation. The next one is right above that one. If I'll move it to the top, it's exactly on the same position. It doesn't change its position when I'm going to the next state. But the previous image changes its position. So that's why we see and we think that this works like a mask. This is what we have on click. The very first trigger is on click, smart animate in 2 seconds, ease in and out, move to the next one. From here, after delay of 1 second, to make this natural feeling. You can't scroll like infinitely and then it moves from the very top to the very bottom. In this case, you will not show your design. We want to show everything here. So that's why we make this delay, like I scrolled, wait, scroll, wait. So that's why after delay of 1 second is in out, 2 seconds, and then the same happens with a final position when we select it. After delay, 1 second, in 2 seconds, we move to the next screen. Cool, right? Looks awesome. Let's take a look again. Click. We moved. Because we haven't changed the position of the top navigation, it stays on its position all the time. And one more example that I want to show you. This is also about drag. And let's take a look what we have inside of this layer. We have mask. This is our mask. And this mask looks like this one. Again, this is not about design. I hope that you know how to create this kind of mask. So we have mask. At the bottom of the mask, we have GIF with that guy, which is, if you know Supernatural, this was Dean. And here we have text, and we have text somewhere at the bottom here. For the state B, we move the text. Let's go inside. We move all this text up. We move mask up outside of the screen, but GIF stays at the same position. In this case, I could make it also on click, but I create it on drag. Drag gives you the feeling that you can interact with these sections. The problem with drag that you can't drag from section to section to section to section. In this case, it's better to use it to show some particular thing. And let's take a look how this transition works. We have text here. Now I'm started dragging up and the text moves there. I'm dragging down. Come on. I need to restart it probably. Move up and move down. So it doesn't work. Let's take a look what's happening here. It's on drag. Move in, smart animate. Yeah, like this one. Move down. Move up. Move down. So I can control these elements while they are working here. But at the same time, as you can see, the GIF stays on the same position. Let's also change this one, maybe to 1 second. And let's take a look what will happen when we'll change it to 1 second. Restart. And it moves much faster. It moves much faster. So if you want your animation to look natural, always test them and take a look what will work best for you. Move up. And it moves here. It moves all the time. So you set 5 seconds and here a second. So it will move with this particular time. Now let's go to another example. I'll show you how to create parallax effect. And then we'll go to the next lesson. But before that, parallax probably you are interested in, like, well, okay, but if I can't animate, if I can't interact or change position of the elements while scrolling, how can I show it in Figma? Here I created the example where we have lots of images and they are going like from top to bottom, and I have text that stays always on its position. It stays here. But every time when I'm going to the next state, all these images changing their position, but absolutely randomly. Some of them move much faster to the top, some of them stay, move a little bit slower. So for example, if you'll take a look at this image here, Figma also shows you where it will move to the next size. You see how position has changed. When I take a look at this one, this image is much higher than this one, while in the state A, this image is higher. Now what I created, after delay of 2 seconds, Smart Animate go to the next section in 2 seconds. I click play here, wait in 2 seconds, and as you can see, the image on the left moved much faster than the images on the right. This is how you can animate and create this parallax effect. This is how cool is that, and we are talking only about position. This is how many things you can create using only position. In the next lessons, I will show you some more advanced examples of how you can animate position but with other elements like opacity, mask, size, color. So all these things we'll discuss in the next lessons, but already take a look how many things you're able to create for your designs, starting from mobile apps to websites to presentation your works, just anywhere. See you in the next lesson. Now, let's talk about scroll. While we understood that scroll is also position, but why we need to talk about scroll? Sometimes you don't need to animate scroll. You just want to show that the website is scrollable, that it's really long, and you want to show all the sections of the website. How to do that in Figma? Create your screen, or take your design that you have. Inside of it, of course, we'll need to have some content, maybe something like this. Move it down and then duplicate it multiple times. Select all the rectangles so we will not see just rectangles. Let's change them to images. Go to plugins, unsplash, minimal. Wait a little bit while all the images will be randomly selected and applied to the rectangles that you just created. You can select just any kind of images here, but this is for presentation purposes. So boom, we have images now. Now we have this frame or your design that you created. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go here while this frame is selected, and we'll click vertical scrolling. We click here vertical scrolling. Now when I click play, I'll see this design. Why? Because our preview icon is here. Let's go back. Wait a little bit while images will be uploaded here to this preview state, because it also takes time for Figma to upload the images that you have in the previous mode, because basically what Figma is doing, it creates another instance where it presents the design. But even now, while it's loading, we can already start scrolling. And as you can see, it scrolls perfectly. Now the only thing that I don't like that it's still haven't loaded the images. Let's close it and open it again. Anyway, I hope that in your designs it will show the images much faster than in this case. But this is how scroll works. What do you need to have for scroll? First of all, you have to have frame. Also, all the elements that are inside of your design should go outside of the size of the screen, because in this case, when I click play, nothing is scrollable. I'm trying, but it doesn't scroll because we don't have anything outside of this frame. If I want to see all the elements, I click here, clip content, and I'll see everything that is below this frame. But only this frame will be scrollable. I can even make it smaller like this one. And now when I go to preview mode, this is what I'll see. And now finally we see the images. Yay. So this is how scroll works in Figma. Sometimes you need fixed position for your top navigation bar that we showed previously. We just didn't change the position of the navigation. But in scroll mode, when you don't need to create any animations, you can do it easily with just this element here. When you go to prototype mode, we have play icon there. How to create this one? So for this design, we have absolutely the same images below, but here I create a rectangle that represents our navigation bar at the top. And on the right side, you will see fixed position when scrolling. This is our rectangle, navigation, fixed position. Now it moves to the fixed position. Where you can use it, this is specifically most used when you are creating mobile applications, where at the top you have status bar, at the bottom you have home bar, and also you have tab bar. So all these elements at the top and the bottom are not moving. The only thing that is moving is the design, which is inside in the middle. So this is where you can use fixed position for these elements. Just to show you quickly, what do I mean? 375, like this one, and at the top you will have status bar, at the bottom you will have home bar, which is real like smaller like this one. It never moves. Then we have another like navigation bar here. Let's change the color of our home bar to, for example, 000, so you will see it. And also we will have some elements at the top of a different color, and this one of a different color, so you will understand what exactly is happening. Something like this, right? And then we have all these elements we want to be fixed, so we select them fixed, we select them fixed. Now I'll create something like image here in the middle, and I'll duplicate it multiple times, but this is our frame. And when I go to prototype mode now, and we'll select this frame here, click play, it shouldn't start scrolling, and it doesn't scroll because we haven't selected vertical scrolling here. Vertical scroll, go here, and now we can move up and down, but the top section stays at the same position and the bottom section stays in the same position. The only thing that is changing is only content here. You can go to, for example, Instagram, and you will see the same stuff. Let's go to another example here, what we just created. Let's play here. This is exactly what I did. So we have images and we have navigation. But sometimes you're creating the websites with the sidebar, which is on the left. And we want the sidebar stays on the same position all the time. So we'll create this additional element here. So you will see that it stays on its position while we're scrolling. We go to prototype mode, play. And now when I'm scrolling, only right side is scrolling. This is specifically valuable when you're creating dashboards, for example, or you're creating the website for games, because usually they have the sidebar and on the right side something is scrolling. And one more example here, what Figma just recently released, scroll to the position. How it works. So it's almost the same. We can scroll here, but at the same time, in some of the elements I can click and Figma will scroll me to one particular element. How to create that? Again, let's create the screen like this one. Let's create our navigation that will stay at the top all the time. So we'll put fixed position here. Let's create our element somewhere here. Move it up. 0, 0, 0, boom. We'll have something here and also more elements on this side. And then, of course, we'll have some content, so we will be able to scroll outside of the screen somewhere here. Perfect. Now you simply go to prototype mode, check vertical scrolling, and at the same time you select the element that you will click and you want to scroll down somewhere. And you just hold it and move it down to the section that you want. If you want to see this section, simply click content here. Now we go to prototype, select the element, and you move it here, for example. In addition to that, you can set the offset. This is when the page scrolls down, how much space you want to see from top and bottom. And here I want to see 100 pixels at the bottom of the image. And I want to move with animate, and at the same time I want to move with is in out back, or is out back. What does it mean out back? It means that it will move to the position, move it a little bit further, and will get back. Let's take a look how it works. The frame is not selected. Select, go here, play. I click on the element and we move down to this element. But you saw that is out back. You can also change it to simple is out, and in this case we'll just move down to that particular section without this jump further. At the same time, you can still continue scrolling, and anytime you can get back and click on this element. This is specifically useful when you have the button move to the top. You can put it here, you scroll to the very bottom, or you fixed position for that, you click on this button and it moves up to the very top of the website. This is how cool scroll animations in Figma are. And another example that I want to show you is how to create horizontal scrolling, because it's also useful. Let me show you how it works. So we have our mobile application with lots of different carousels or swim lanes inside of it, and we can scroll vertically, but at the same time we can scroll horizontally our elements inside of this design. We can even scroll here and still continue scrolling horizontally. How to do that? You create a frame. For this frame you create vertical scrolling, but inside of this frame you create another one, another frame, and inside we have images that moves out of the frame. So this is our frame. If we click content here, it doesn't matter. In this case we'll need to click this one. So this is our entire web design for this mobile application, but the frame itself has its constraints. It's up to the size of this screen itself. And for this frame we'll go to prototype horizontal scrolling, prototype horizontal scrolling. Now when we go here, as you can see, this is what we'll have. The final thing that I want to show you is also when you're working with maps, for example, you can also create, in this case it will not be a map, this will be just our image from here, for example. And for this frame, what I want to create is scroll horizontally and vertically at the same time. Now I go to the play mode, and now I'm able to move whatever I want. And this can be even the map of the city, the map of the country, and you can move here, and it works like drag and drop, and also as scroll down, scroll left and right. Use this technique when you're working with maps, like, you know, Google Maps. You can move the stuff here, while you can also have navigation at the bottom. You click on something and it moves to one particular element, because you already know how to move to particular element on the page using this smart animation inside of one frame. So you don't need to create even another frame, it just will move here. So scroll is done. Now you know how to use this stuff. let's go to the next lesson. Boom! You already know that everything is better when you use mask, right? So when we're talking even about things like position, we can animate so many things when we use mask. And in this lesson, I want to show you how to work with masks, how you can improve your works with masks. Here is the simple animation that looks visually like, how did you create that with Figma or Adobe XD? Come on. But I know that you are cool and you can create that. If you don't know, let me show you. Go to prototype mode. What do we have here? First of all, we have state A, and in this state A, we have these elements. We have the bar itself, like from 0 to 100%. Then we have the word loading, that something is loading. It can be the first screen of your mobile application or onboarding screen of your website. Then we have mask that is outside, and the mask is exactly the same as this border here, but a little bit smaller. And then we have, if I'll exclude mask, this is what you will see. I have gray bar. I have on top of it the bar that shows that loading is 100%, and I have masks that shows me exactly how it's loading. And what I'm doing for the state B, I'm just moving mask to the right. The only thing that I did, I just moved mask here. Now let's take a look how this animation works. Let me take first this guy from here and go. Okay, we need to restart. So we'll click play again. And here, restart the animation, click, and it's loading. And it can load a little bit maybe slower. Let's go here, on click, smart animate. It can be after delay. Let's create after delay of 1 second. Smart animate linear, because of course you can use ease in, ease out, ease in out. But in this case, I want to show that everything is loading just slowly with linear easing, just as it is, without any peaks and downs. I'll make 5 seconds to load to 100%. And in addition to that, because we already know lots of many things, in addition to that, what I'm going to do, instead of moving back, I'll go here, and after delay of 1 millisecond, I want to create smart animation that will change in 300 seconds. It's amazing. I want to change this color from blue to green, because we already loading is finished and then done. I'm not going to, I'll align it. All right, now when we go here, after delay of 1 second, we are moving to the next stage where 100% done. This is what you can create with using mask and just simple things like this one. The next example is about mask and changing the size, but yeah, I know that we just talked only about position and scrolling and masks, but in this case, I just want to show you what you can also create with masks. Let's click play. And in this case, I click and boom, we have McDonald's logo loaded from the mask. This is specifically useful for graphic designs, and also if you want to create this animation as the first screen on your website, it can also apply to that one. But let's make it a little bit slower. Test it. R on click and boom, McDonald's. You can apply it to any SVG image. I'll show you how to use it a little bit later in more advanced technique. But another thing, what you need to know about masks, if you haven't seen the YouTube tutorial that I created with this player, let me show you how everything works here. So we have our UI of these elements, and I created the mask from these rectangles one by one manually. I created all these rectangles, changed their positions, and this is our mask now. Outside of the mask, I created this weird line here. And this weird line for the state B, when I hover on that, you see that this mask, not mask, this element moving to the right, while mask stays on the same position. And only this weird line that goes through this mask show me these waves, sound waves. So now when I click play here, and music started playing, we're changing only the position of this element, and we are changing only the position of that line at the bottom. I saw so many examples people already created with this animation. They used it for just almost anything, even for big players, huge players. They animated even this one. Let me show you the example here. Let's move this one down. 284, okay, 284. We will move here to the same size. $284 for this one, and 284 will need to create animation for this element here. So now everything is aligned. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this element, flip it like this one. We don't see it because it's masked, but let's remove mask from here. And let's combine these two masks together. Command E, now this is our mask. Then I have this element, I'll do the same. Command D, Shift V, move to the bottom of this element. Let's remove mask so we'll see where it goes, like this one, and combine these together. Now I'll take these two elements from here, so I don't want to recreate everything again for the state B. Command V, I will move it down. I don't know how far we are here. 149, Y position, we're checking Y position. Select this one, and this one actually here I have a group, and I want to select group and paste here. So we have a group, we have this element here, and now I want to move it to the very, very right, like this one. Now let's take a look what will happen with our player, how it will look now. This is what's happening, and this is how you can animate voice UI. Let's imagine I'm talking with Siri, or I'm talking with Google Assistant, and this is what I will see when I'm, hey Google, and then it reflects, do this, and this also show me this animation. What I did, I just changed the position and I used mask. This is how powerful masks are, and now you know how to do all these things super easy and super fast. I'll give you another example here where I applied mask and to show this arrow. What's happening here is I created the arrow itself, and I also created mask. Let me actually show you. So we go to this frame, and what we have inside, group inside of group, oh my god. So this is our mask, which is our arrow. For state B, when we go here, as you can see, I rotated these arrows, but at the same time I have this element, and when I move it, this element is just a rectangle with blur, layer blur, this one, and this is what's happening. What I do for the next state, for state B, I'm just moving position of this rectangle inside of it to the top. So I moved it from bottom to the top. And now when I play this animation, I can show these elements directly in Figma. I animate it only after delay, move to the next position, and then instantly get back to the first state. Like here, when we go to prototype, this one, animation back is instant. It means that once the animation played to the very top, get back instantly. Don't smart animate, don't move back with the same direction, because if it will be moved back, then this is what we will see. And this is not the example that I want to see here. I want to show arrow plays in only one direction. Use masks. The next example we created in the first section, and you already know how to create it because I gave all the explanation here, but I just want to show you that using mask you can animate this text. And this is what we can see in the iPhone 12 Pro, on the iPhone 12 Pro landing page on Apple. And the final example you also saw in this section, the previous one, you saw that I showed you this website, Google Pixel 5. When we go to the landing page itself and scroll down, we see these lines are moving to the right, and then this line becomes, oh my God, what's happening? Wow, wow, this is what we see. How they did that? They used mask and position. So here, I created this line. On the bottom of this line, I put GIF here, as you can see, and this line is not more than just mask. Then I changed the position of the mask, and then I changed the size of the mask, so we revealed the animation below, and then I changed the size of the animation itself. Let's take a look how it works. The animation itself is after delay 1 second, smart animate is in out. To create this one, what you will need the screen itself. Let's go to design mode. You will need to create the line. This is our frame. On top of this line, what you will do, you will put the image, and in this case I will use again Unsplash. Maybe it will be some plants like this one. Perfect. Then the first rectangle, the first line, this will be mask. So now we don't see this element, and this is our state B. For the state A, we will move mask outside of the screen, maybe just a little bit like this one. This is our state B. And for the state C, we will change the size of this element. And then for the state D, I will change the size of the image, like this one. This is exactly what I did. I created this story where the line is moving from left to right, and then it reveals the animation itself. And I created everything with, when we go to prototype mode, with delay. After delay of 1 second, in 3 seconds, show me the next state. Let's take a look how it works. So after delay of 1 second, we move to the right with 3 seconds, then we review our animation at the bottom, and then we scale it down. You see, I used simple principle. I used mask, position, size, and I achieved the same result as Google here. But the only difference is that it's not related to scroll. This was just animated. If you want to connect it somehow to scroll, use Principle app, or use the principle that I showed you in the position section, because now you can definitely create that easily. And that's it for the mask. Use masks. Try to think about where you can use masks to hide elements and then to show them, to reveal these elements somewhere in the next screen. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Now let's talk about the least used principle in motion design. Not principle, the animation. The least used is rotation. Yeah, I don't know why, but actually I know why, because we don't see so many rotations in our lives, so that's why rotation is not something so popular, and also it doesn't give us the feeling that something is moving in the right direction, because it's just scrolling. So that's why you don't see it a lot, but still we can see it somewhere. And one of the places where it used a lot, where you're changing plus to close. Because what we are doing here, we just rotate this plus here. The same thing happened here. I took where you can really use this animation. Actually, let me show you the first one first, like this one. Oh, and we already have this connection. On click, we'll with Smart Animate in 300 milliseconds, we'll go to the next state and then we'll go back. Let's take a look. This is very simple, used a lot, almost everywhere. I clicked, like this was our plus. I clicked on that, close. Then I got back to the previous state. But where you can use, and most people don't know that, where you can use this animation is if you need to change the one icon to another one, or to change one element to another one very smoothly, so nobody will see that and it will look amazing. Use rotation. So here I have this sun icon, 45 degrees here in this case. But when I go to the next screen, this is our frame. Here, this is just vector. When I go to the next screen, here our vector is minus 45 degrees, while here it's 0. On top of it, I have 45 degrees for this icon, for the moon, and here it's 0. What is happening here? Let me show you in the prototype mode what we can see. On click, the sun is changing to the moon. And we don't see, it looks so smooth because we are moving them in the one direction. And it seems like it happens naturally. So this is where you can see this principle. I used this principle on my account, on Dribbble, when I created the work using After Effects, but at the same time, something similar you can create even in Figma. Similar, I'm not saying that the same, but here to change some different states where I need to show absolutely different shape of the element, I'm using rotation. I'm using here, from here, rotation again, because in this case, your animation looks seamless. This is what you can apply for your designs when you're working in them. Now let me show you another example where you can use a rotation. Pretty simple. So you created this hamburger menu, and when you click, it transforms into close. At the same time, we are changing position of our navigation here. How to create this animation? So you created another frame for state A. I'm going to copy this one like this. So this is our state A. I'm not going to position it the right way because I'm pretty sure that you already know how to do that. Now I'm going to rotate this one to minus 45 degrees and this one plus 45 degrees. So I'm moving this element to the middle, to the very center of everything. And this one, what I'm going to do, I'll change the opacity to 0. So we will not see this element. But in this case, what's the problem here? It seems like I haven't selected something. What's happens here, Command G, this will be also group 2. When I create this animation, when we'll go, I click on this element, we'll go here. Smart Animate in 1 second. Yeah, let's take a look in 1 second because it will give us the understanding what actually is happening. I click on that, and you see, I see what exactly happening, and it doesn't look good at all. So in this case, we are using rotation. So this element for the next state will rotate almost by 180 degrees. The limitation of Figma, it doesn't allow you to create minus 180 degrees. So we will use 979. People will not see that, but this will be more than enough to show your animation. For when you're working with your developer, of course, you have to say minus 180, but because of this limitation in Figma, use minus 179. And now when I click on this icon, this is what's happening. This looks more natural, but again, because it's still pretty slow, when we'll go to the real speed, and the real speed for this one, we will use something like 200 milliseconds, and we will use back also 200 milliseconds. Restart, I click on that, and boom. This looks so smooth that we are changing from hyperlink menu to close, and at the same time, because here in this example on the left, why we are moving this, why we are rotating clockwise, because this element will move from left to right. So I'm rotating the element, rotating this wheel, and this element appears from left to right. This is exactly what's happening in the real world, in the real physical world. So that's why if you want to make your animation look natural, try to replicate the real world stuff. So I'm rotating in that direction, that's why it's moving in that direction. I'm rotating in another direction, and it moves out. So this is what we need to know about rotation. And some more examples that I want to show you. You can already know how to create them. So this is what's happening here. We have image, and then two more images appears. How? Try to think. We're changing position and rotation of these elements. So all these three images here behind this first one, and then we rotate them by 10 degrees and by minus 10 degrees, and also we're changing their position from the middle here to the right. Another example where you probably saw rotation, specifically it's used a lot when graphic designers create websites, because they saw it on different packages, so that's why they apply it somewhere. This is where you hover on the item and it starts rotating. Then you click on that and something is happening. So you just need to hover on the element, and only after that it starts rotating. Boom, done. This is where you can use rotations. This is why you can use rotations. So now you can use them in your designs, and we will go to the next lesson. Now let's talk about opacity, where you can use it, what is that actually, and how to create animations with opacity. I created this example here, and as you can see, with each lesson we move a little bit faster and faster and faster, because you already know how to create different things. I don't need to explain you small even things. When it's something more complicated, where I understand that probably you don't know how I created that, I will stop here. But everything else will move further. So let's take a look at this animation. Of course, we need to close and play again. We show the grid, and then images appear on the screen. How we created that? We already know about position, size, not size not yet, rotation. So this is what I did for the state A. What we have inside, we have all these lines here, and all of them moving in this direction. For the state B, when we'll select these lines here, let's select this frame, I moved them down. They have this position here to show that these lines from the edges will achieve the bottom line much faster than this one. This is how we imitate that some elements come a little bit later. Then, in this case, we have these rectangles here, and these rectangles have opacity 0, while here it has opacity 70%. And all these elements appear on the screen one by one. This is one of the most, not one of the most used, but probably position and opacity used a lot everywhere. You can see them specifically when you saw, for example, when you have the element somewhere on the screen. It can be a phone or just anything, and you have text here at the top. And this is our state B, but we also want to create state A. For state A, these elements will be somewhere here, 0. And now when I'll create the animation after delay of 1 second, show me this animation. We changed the position and we changed the opacity. Now I want to see these elements here. Click play. After 1 second, this element appears. You can see it everywhere. This is the loading state for all the elements. When we go, I don't know, maybe here, it doesn't show too much. But here, yeah, Command R, the very first animation that you see, 0, 100%. We scroll down, 0, 100% with position. Now the opacity is changing when we are scrolling. We scroll down, mask appears, we scroll down, again text is moving. This frame stays on the same position. Then with mask we're moving it away. We show different states here, and when you're switching between these two different states, actually this is where we're also using opacity. We change the opacity of this element to 0 and of this one from 0 to 100%. Boom. Then we have numbers here. Do you remember when we created loader? This is what you can also do with absolutely the same technique. You can create websites and animations like Apple. And if you'll take a look at these elements, as you can see, they changing their position and they changing opacity. This is where people using opacity a lot. One more example that I want to show you. This is exactly the same example that we are changing position and opacity. We have text here for the state B. We have text here for the state A, and it's a little bit below, and we don't see it because opacity of this element is 0. And for this animation, when we go to prototype mode, I created on drag. On drag, smart animate in 1 second, move to the next screen. Let's take a look how this animation works. So we have our state A. When I start dragging, this is what's happening. The text appears on the screen. I drag and it appears and disappears when I drag out from here. If you don't know how I created this particular thing when the image is moving down, it's because we haven't discussed size yet. We'll discuss it in the next lessons. Let's jump to them. So now you know how to animate position, opacity, rotation, masks, how to make scroll. All these things you already know. And if you remember the second fundamental principle, learn what can be animated, because all the animations consist only on that elements: position, rotation, size, opacity. Mask is a separate thing. Size or scale, and also borders, border corner radius or border radius, and also effects. Let's take a look at size now. I'm not going to explain too much and show how to create this manually. We don't want to waste your time, right? So we want to practice more instead of just watching. Okay, more practice, not less watching. You watch something, now practice with that. Create different like dashboards, websites, super simple. Understand how animation works, because your mindset as a motion UI designer is more important than the idea of following how this website was animated. When you understand how something can be animated, you can animate anything. When you go just, I'm pretty sure that in the future, what will happen with you, exactly the same what happened to me. I started animating more and more and more works for user testings, for presentations, for dribble shows, for everything. I use it more and more. And then what happened? when I start designing anything, even website or mobile application, what I see that I already think how I can animate something. Not everything have to be animated. Remember the very first principle, right? But I already see what can be animated. You don't need to have too many animations on the screen. Usually it's better to have only 1-2 elements that will be animated per screen. Everything else will distract users' attention. Keep this in mind. Now let's jump into the next parameter that you can animate, which is size. And I'll tell you the difference between size and scale. You see this graph? Let's take a look how it works. I click again, and it's changing smoothly, very smoothly. Let's make all the elements here, which are really low, to red, to somewhere here, to this color. While on this screen, we will have in red only these elements. All the peak ones will be green. And this one. They are green now. Now let's play. And this is what's happening. We're changing color and we're changing size. But inside, if you'll take a look, this animation consists only of all these rectangles. These are just rectangles that have absolutely the same names as these rectangles. Remember that the name should be the same in state A and state B. And now when I click, I'm changing the size of these elements. I'm changing the height of these elements. Everything created manually, and you can do the same for all your graphs. You can see, do you remember this thing that we see here? That's exactly what you can create. Let's create it right now, maybe. Let's go to Figma, create the frame. We'll have some text here. It will be a processor. Something like this, yeah. Processor. This is our processor. And then we want to animate how this processor, the performance of it. And let's create 2 different lines here. And for this line, we will have linear gradient from here to here. And it will move from this color to something like this one. While for this one, we will move from this color, and it will be linear as well. To something like this, yeah. Boom. So we created these 2 lines. Let's change the size to something smaller, because in this case it will look much better. And we have these elements here. This is our state B. And usually I'm thinking about animations as state B is my final state. How can I achieve this final state? So I create the final state first, and then I go back to the state A, and width for these elements will be 1, like this one. So now on hover, on this all element, I want to see this one. And this will be while hovering. This is our trigger. While hovering, go to the next state and show it to me in 700 milliseconds with Smart Animate is out. That's exactly what's happening when you go to this website. If we'll reload this one, so we will see that it starts really slow and finishes really fast. So now let's go back here, click play. We don't have play icon nearby, right? So this is what we created, R, and they are moving from here, and this is on hover state. Boom, hover, they're moving here. Outside, they're moving out. Now you can use it for your works, and now you know how exactly Apple created that. The next example that I'll show you, this will be your homework. And I want you to send me your design, your animation, to my Instagram account, or share it in your stories mentioning me. I'll be more than happy to share your work on my account, but I will show you only the animation, and I want you to send me how would you create that. Let me show you first of all what we have here. We have here this element, then we have this element, and then we have this one. You can pause this video and then go back to each of these elements. Take a look at them. I'll show you the animation now, and please share your animation with me, and I'll show you how it works. I will be more than happy if you create exactly the same animation that I created here. This is our element. Hover, and I see the menu. And you see it works like, it seemed like kind of 3D. But it's not. It's just illusion. And when I click on the menu, this is what's happening. When I click close, I'm going back. Click again. I'll do it multiple times, so maybe you will understand what exactly is happening here. We are talking now, as you know, we are talking about size. And also, we already discussed everything, but we are talking about size. Click. And we already discussed opacity, right? Like this one. And position, because menu is moving, is changing its position. So I gave you so many hints here, so that's why now your turn. Please share your designs with me. And I'll show you another one that looks pretty interesting, and you probably saw it also on different websites and probably also on Apple. When I click on this plus icon, the card rotates, and it's Figma. It's not a 3D tool, it's not After Effects, it's not Adobe XD, it's Figma. I click on that, and the card flips. How to create it? Let me show you. This one I'll show you, but the previous one, your homework, share it with me, please. You can use different words here, and it's not necessarily work and core or menu here. Actually, if you don't know, there is a company called work.co. And when I go here, for example, don't remember. Yeah, here they flip it. When I click on menu, it moves down. Really cool animation, and this is their navigation. Wow. Just wow. Click here, animation. Size. In this case, it's scale, because this one is small and this one is big. What's the difference between size and scale before we go here? Let me show you. The best example will be to show it with rectangle. We have rectangle with stroke. Stroke 10. Like this one. Oh, let's make it small. What's the difference between size and scale? Here in Figma, I have move and I have scale. When I use only move, I'm changing only the size. You see that stroke stays the same. Stroke is absolutely the same size. I'm changing the size of this element. I'm not scaling this element. When we are talking about scale, I click here, K, or just on the keyboard K. Now when I'm scaling, you see that stroke is also changing. Scale scales the entire element. You can definitely see this with text. So we have some text here. And now while I'm in the scale mode, in this case move mode, this is what's happening with text. I'm changing something, but the text doesn't become smaller because I'm moving the size of the box where the text is. When I go to scale mode, now the text becomes smaller and bigger. Sometimes, for example, with the animation where we had this GIF, the GIF With the mask, we scaled it down. We didn't change the size from top and bottom. We scaled the entire image down. And sometimes it's more than enough. Like here in this example with Work & Co. I'm go here, scale up. Let's go back to our example and how to create this animation. So you create the screen. Inside of the screen, you create the card with rounded corners. In this case, it doesn't matter actually. This will be our state A. Actually, I'll show you the direction, but everything else you will have to do the same on your own. Otherwise, you will not understand how this works. If I'll tell you everything, you will watch it. Oh, okay, I know it. Or, oh, okay, I didn't know that. I'll try it somewhere. No, try it and also share it with me. But I'll give you the strong direction how it works in Figma. So this is our card. Inside of the card, I'll create site 1. This is our state A. And on this side, we will have plus. Like this one, Command D, move it in this direction. Make it a little bit smaller. I want to have like this one. No, they're not in the right direction. Anyway, let's not spend too much time here. So this is our plus icon. Done. This is our state A and site 1. Let's create state B. And actually what we will do, we will combine everything into one group, group 8. Combine into one group, group 8. But for the second state, what we are doing, I'm holding Option or Alt key and moving this thing into the opposite direction. And it flips. And it flips like that. If you don't your text to be changed, you have to transform this text into the lines, Command-Shift-O. And also this one is just figure, well, okay, it's just vector, it stays the same. So here Command-Shift-O as well, and that's it. So now when I flip it, you see, this is what's happening. Now your task is to create this animation and send it to me. Please create that, because if you go to, I hope that Apple still have this animation where it can be on maybe Mac and M1. Let's take a look if they have these cards here. Oh, they changed it to this one. Previously they had the card flipped to another side. So maybe you will still find it somewhere on the Apple website. It was here in gift cards as well, maybe. If I will not find it anyway, the task is still the same. Create this flip card animation. One more. No, it goes to another page. Anyway, create this flip card animation and send it to me on Instagram. How you create this flip direction. I already showed you how to create the flip itself. Now your task is for this state to show me site 2, and instead of this icon to show me close button, because you already have everything, you already know everything that you need to know about this. So go and do that. And there are 2 examples that I want to show you with scale and size, because size and scale are pretty similar, but they have some differences. So this is exactly the example that you see a lot on different websites, where you saw just image or video, and then you see that, oh, this video or image is inside of this element. Oh, okay, now I got it. I want to show you another example here, where when I hover on the phone, we see this like bubble that maybe it's charging, maybe we have like someone is calling to us. How to create this one? Let's remove these fonts from here. Let's remove these rectangles at the bottom. So at the bottom, we have just circle. And you see that Figma shows that for the state B, we have bigger circle. The difference between them is in size and opacity. Opacity here is 0, opacity here is 100%. And the animation between these two elements is hover. While hovering, Smart Animate is in out in 2 seconds. Now without all these things, let's take a look. This is what exactly happening from 100% to 0. But because we have something on top of it, we don't see that something is happening with this. We don't see the first state for this circle. But this is exactly what's happening. You can use it to attract attention of the user on the website to one particular element. Probably you already saw it somewhere. Let's go to the final example when we are talking about size. And for this example, we have state A, B, C, and D. Let's take a look at the animation and then I'll show you what it consists of, because you already know all the elements, what can be animated. I'll just show you what I have here. So here I have drag animation, but now you can create this with just using horizontal scroll, and that's it. But also on click on this element, when I click on that, I want this image to become bigger. I'm changing the size of the image, and I want these elements to move to change their position and disappear from the screen. But because this image will move up and it will become bigger, these elements should move away from it because they don't have space anymore for this element. This is what makes animation natural. For example, when you put your finger into the water, you see that the waves, this ripple effect, all the waves are moving outside of your finger because they don't have kind of space there already. Let's take a look how it works. I click on that, and this is what's happening. I click on it, and animation interactions changing its position and opacity. At the bottom, these elements also changing their position and opacity. The image itself becomes bigger, and also my journey becomes bigger. And then we see that text appears. This text was always here, but because we changed the opacity, boom, it appears only there. Now let's take a look on the connections between all these frames. So here I used on drag. You already know how to create that. And from here, when I click on this element, when I click on that, on click is out, in half a second, show me this screen. And then right once you showed me this screen, after delay of 100 milliseconds, show me this text. Show me this text because we previously haven't seen that. So this is where we're changing the size of the image. Now you know it, and now we are ready to jump to the next lesson. In this lesson, I want to teach you how to use border radius, which is when you created a rectangle, just anywhere on the screen is here. You can also change it separately, like every corner separately, but you can also change them together, like this one, like this one. Two most powerful things where you can use that. The first one is Fab button, floating action button. This is from Material Design. You saw it a lot probably on Android, in Android apps, but also I'm pretty sure that all of you seen this button. But how to animate that? On click on this one, I want to see this screen here. Let's go to prototype mode, play. And I have only Fab button. I can also create hover state for this button. In this case, we are showing border radius, so let's talk about that. I click on this, and this is what's happening. I click on this one, and as you can see, plus we're using rotation here, it's changing to close. and this one is changing its size. But at the same time, why we are talking when it's changing size, why we are talking about border radius? Because to create this circle here, this ellipse, I'm using rectangle 56 by 56 with rounded corners 28. If I'll change it to this one, it will be just square. I made a circle out of it, but for this one, I'm using only 10. It's not 28 anymore, it's just 10. I can make it even 4, like this. So now, just using border radius, we can switch from, we can create this morphing effect, where we're changing from one shape, we jump from one shape to another shape. I click on this ellipse here, and it becomes rectangle. Ellipse becomes rectangle in Figma. This is what you can do. Once this animation is done, after delay in 1 millisecond, you can add text here. This is where you can use this type of animation, and this is where you can animate border radius. But another example is also pretty cool. Let me show you how to create curved line in Figma. So here, what do I have here? I have the button, which is not changing. The only thing that is changing is text on this button. And for text, I'm also using one interesting technique. So lawnmower is here, but at the bottom with opacity 0, I have close. On the right side, I have close in this position. And on top of that, I have lawnmower, which with opacity 0, which means that one text changes with another text, like this one. But what's happening here? Let me show you the animation first, and then you will tell me what you think about it, because it looks pretty cool. I click on that, and you see that the straight line becomes rounded one. Lots of people probably will ask me after that, when I will share this, like, how did you do that? It's impossible in Figma. You can't transform the element as SVG in Figma. You can do this with After Effects, but you can't do this with Figma. But you can create the illusion of that. And to do that, what do I have here? I have just a rectangle here, BG, 1000 by 1000. And then I have the same rectangle. I moved it up, but I changed the border radius to 500. So now it's not the rectangle anymore, it's circle. I can also make it 400, and now you see that it looks a little bit different. Let's take a look how it works. This is what I see. But in my opinion, 500 works better because we don't see this connection here. So that's why let's go and create maybe 550. Yeah, like this one, which also work great. And we created that just by using border radius. Cool features every day. Let's jump to the next lesson. Hey, what's up? Let's talk about size and color. We already discussed size, but why we are talking about color as well. So the main topic of this lesson is color. And we use color a lot, especially for buttons, where we show in hover state and press state and all these different states. And also I showed you how to animate that graph, just changing the size of the element, but also we changed colors and the animation became even much better. For example, this would be our hover state, and then the next state would be press state for this button. We would change only color here. You already know how to do that easily. What I want to show you is more advanced technique. Here I created this animation, and we already discussed border radius, we already discussed opacity and masks. So all these things you already know. Here I want to show you how you can easily create two different states, like light theme and dark theme. Let's go to prototype mode. This is our first state, and this is our hover state. I'll show you why I created that one as well. And then when I click on this element, from here when I click on this element, I want to see this dark theme. How to create that? Let's take a look at the animation first. So this is our design. When I hover on this one, you see that it's changing its state. It's super important to show that something you can interact with. This what improves the user experience. In this case, it doesn't make sense because it's mobile app, but for the website, on mobile apps you don't have hover states. But for the websites, it would work the best. Just for presentation purposes, I want to show you this on mobile app. So when I click on this element, boom, it transforms into dark theme. And it's happening because we are changing here. Let's take a look how it works. First of all, on hover, so we have this sun icon, and the angle of it is 0. When we go here, and we'll take a look at the sun icon on the sun itself, it's 14 degrees. So we are rotating the icon a little bit to show that you can interact with this element. Then when I click on this element, and if we go to prototype mode, when I click on this element, I want to go here. So we will need to change this icon to this one. And what's happening, I already showed you, we are rotating this element. So here we have 45 degrees for this icon, and in this case we have 0 degrees. So we are rotating the icon to switch between the sun and the moon. But in addition to that, on this frame we have circle here, and the opacity of it is 0, the color is black. In this case we also have circle, but it's much bigger and the opacity is 100%. So we change the size of the circle and we change its color. In this case we are not changing its color, we're changing just the opacity, but we are changing the color of the entire theme. So now when we go here, click, as you can see, the icon rotates and it creates this effect of movement, not movement, of morphing one icon to another one. This is how simple you can create just using color and size. And of course, what you need to understand about color, that it's mostly used when you need to show different interactions, or you want to highlight one particular element. Another example that I want to show you is about size. It's not about color, it's about size. But let's see. This is what we have. I hover on this icon, and you see it seems like it becomes smaller. The entire image becomes smaller, but at the same time, it's kind of zoomed in. How is it possible? Here, and text appears on the screen while on hover. Boom. This is exactly what we saw on the website Weno. Do you see that? That the rectangle becomes smaller and the image becomes bigger. Let's take a look what this animation consists of. So you will be able to create that. We have hover effect here. In 900 milliseconds, we are switching to the next state. But what's interesting, we have mask here. And for the masks for the state B, we are changing the size of the mask. And on top of the mask, we have the image. And we are changing the size of the image. We make the image bigger and the mask smaller. If we'll make for the state B the mask even smaller, and we change maybe the position of the mask, and maybe we'll make the image even bigger, so you will see what exactly will happen. With text, nothing is happening except we didn't have text on this state A, and we have it here. So it just appears on the screen. This is what's happening. When you want to attract people's attention to one particular element on the website, or for example, you just loaded the website and you want to show the bigger picture, and then focusing on one particular element, this is what you can create super easy with just animating mask, position, and size. Now you know all these elements. Let's talk about shadow and... Oh hey! We will not spend too much time on this section because I will just show you what's happening with shadow and what's happening with blur. How you can animate these two things so you will be able to apply it to your designs, because now your direction is to think as a motion UI designer, go and observe different websites, try to understand how they work, and apply this technique to a website. When you see that somewhere people are using this border radius or like box shadow or blur effect, now you will know how you can create it yourself. Let me show you just two examples. The first one, let's click play. This is what's happening. We have 4 different cards, and on hover, we're animating shadow. How to animate shadow? As any other element in Figma, you create state A. For the state A, let's test another example in this case. Let's make it something like this. Let's create the element here. Maybe it will be the button, 150. The same color as this one. We will add effect drop shadow that will drop 4, 4, 4. Okay. We'll make the color of it a little bit darker than we have at the top. We will duplicate Command D the effect itself. We'll change the color to white, but in this case -4, -4. You know the styles of buttons, right? So this is our button here in soft UI style. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change. We are working with shadows, and this will apply to inner shadows as well, but in this case drop shadow. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to use here like drop shadow 0, drop shadow 0 for this one, 0, 0 for this one, blur as well 0. So we're changing parameters for the shadow, but at the same time I'm going to add inner shadow. That will be 4, 4 and white. Oh, in this case it will be a little bit darker than that one, like this. Correct. We'll duplicate this shadow, and then it will be -4, -4 and white in this case. So we created another state where everything is praised. What's the difference? The inner shadow here we have, and we don't have it here. Boom, we have this style when all the shadows are applied, but we're gonna show only the animation in this case, so that's why we don't need this style effect. Now click on this button, I want to see another state, and I want to see it almost immediately, 300 milliseconds. And when I click back on this button, I will go back. Now let's go to prototype mode to see how it works. This is our button. I click on that, and this is how easily you can animate shadows in Figma. You can apply it for Figma, for different states, and also for hover effect, as I showed you with cards. Another example is blur. Here I already showed you this example. Now I want to show you how I created that. Let's take a look at the first state. What we are changing is only scale. We are scaling down all the elements, all the UI elements from the top and at the bottom. Scale. Go to another position. We already have and this text in the previous state. It's somewhere here, and it has opacity 0. This text has opacity 100% in this case, but in the next state it will have opacity 0, and it will move up. I click, this is what's happening. For the next state, I'm using mask. If you don't know how I created that, please create it and send it to me as well. The next state, because this state you can use a lot for login, password, for different filling in different forms. I click, and this is what's happening. I used mask here, and I changed its position. The next state is I scale up the image on the background, plus I added layer blur effect on that image. And I'm going back to this state. Let's take a look on the blur only. So we have this image here that doesn't have effects at all. Image with overlay on top of that. Then this image is bigger, and we have layer blur here. I can even change it to something bigger, maybe to 100, something like this. Glass effect, so popular now. Now let's take a look how it works in this case. And boom, we have this layer effect. This is how you can animate this thing. Where you can use it, it depends on you, depends on your design. But what you should understand that you can animate that. You can create so many things now. In the next bonus lesson, I'll show you some examples, some a little bit more advanced techniques, and you will be able to create even a little bit more. But now you already know more, right? You already know so much, so a lot, so you can just go and animate just anything, everything. See you in the next bonus lesson. Hey guys and gals, I'm not going to stay here too long on all these states because you already know everything. You already know probably more than I do. Why not? Yeah, you have different backgrounds, so maybe you already know more than I do in Motion UI design. But here, I want to show you some techniques, some examples that I already showed. Some of them I already showed you, but I want to show you how exactly to create them. And one technique will be super bonus, how to animate isometric shapes in Figma. Let's start with something more simple with this animation that I already showed you. Do you remember that? Let's refresh. Boom, we're changing to the next position, to the next position. What we are doing here, we're changing position, we are changing opacity, and we are changing size of the elements. All the animations happening after delay. Let's restart, delay, and then we are changing these elements just using opacity and position. And in this case, size back, and the text appears from opacity 0 to 100%. You can use all of these techniques for your website when it's loading. The next example I already showed you, but I haven't showed you how to create these animations in Figma. So let me show you the animation itself. Then I'll show you how to animate isometric shapes in Figma, and then you will be able to apply it to just anything. Just play with it. So we click, we animate this one, this element, move this one here, and boom, we have a box. How to create all these things. I'll show you how to animate, how to create isometric animations, and you will be able to create them yourself. So for these type of animations, we will need, of course, frame and state A. First of all, we need to understand what isometric shape is. And this is the element that lays under 30 degrees without any perspective. This is what isometric element is. In this case, what we're going to create, we'll create a rectangle. How to create isometric shape? Create the shape that you want to put into this 30 degrees without perspective. Step 1, create the element. Step 2, rotate it by 45 or minus 45 degrees, depending on where you want to lay it down. Step 2, rotate it by 45 degrees. Step 3, group it. Create a group, Command G. Create a group for this element. And state D, change when this one is off, when proportions are off, change the height of this element to 57.73%. Exactly like that. No matter what's the size of the element, shape of it, it doesn't matter. The height always change to the height of the group, not the element inside, of the group, to 57.73%, and press enter. We have isometric shape. And now for this shape, out of this shape, actually I created duplicate. You can duplicate the element, put it down, and change the color of it, like this one. Now you can create animation. This will be your state A, and for the state B, maybe you will move this element here, and because it's pretty far from you now, you can change the size of the shadow. Now when you create animation, on click, in 2 seconds, show me the next stage, and then go back. Let's show how it looks. Practice, play. I click on that, boom, it's happening. You see, we created isometric animation. But at the same time, you can also animate the creation of isometric shape. What does it mean? So create a frame, create your element, group it, put it into the group immediately, like Command G, because we need this for our state A. This is our state A. We have the element and that lays inside of the group. State B will be, we rotate the element inside of the group by 45 degrees. This is our first step. And the second one, we're changing the height of the group to 57.73%. Enter, down. And now Figma understands what you just did. You only rotated the element itself, rotation, and you changed the height, you changed the size of the group. That's the only thing that you did, which means for Figma that you don't have any limitations for rotation and changing size. And it means that Figma will show it as animation. Let's play. R, click, and we are creating this rotation. On top of that, if you want to go a little bit further, you can create here, duplicate this shape. We go to design mode, duplicate it, move it down, and this will be black, like this one. And of course, we need to create this shadow for the state B. We're making it like that. So now the final step in prototype mode, I go here, and only for this one I'll go back. But I want to see this animation after delay of like 100 milliseconds. Smart animate. Show me this shadow in half a second. And now when I click here, oh, we don't see. We don't have this shadow. So we have group 10, but we don't have the shadow for the very state A. So what we'll need to do, Command D, put it down, and black. Because we're already on the next state, we already have the shadow, so we need to show it here. R, click, boom, after delay, show me a shadow. You can see this in different specification definitions from Google, and this is very powerful technique. Now you can create this. And the final example that I wanted to show you is just the animation of onboarding. We already saw one of the examples. Let's take a look at another example. I click play. After delay, boom, boom. This is what's happening. Probably You already saw it here on pixels when we scroll down. You see this image appears after this element. When we go here in Figma, I'll restart. After delay, show me the boxes, then text, show me the text, and then show me the images. And we used absolutely the same techniques we already discussed today. But for this example, I also want you to practice and share with me your examples. Otherwise, it's not a masterclass. I'm just talking in front of you, and that's it. This is masterclass, which means that you also have to practice and you also have to make your homework. Share your designs, and I'll see you in the next section where we will discuss how exactly actually to export your animation and how to explain them to developers. Because, okay, I created it myself, but where can use it outside of Figma? Sometimes it's better not to use it anywhere. I mean, outside of Figma. I'll tell you why in the next section. But as for now, practice and crush Motion UI design. See you in the next section. Bye.